When food becomes a religion. I speak from experience. Written and read by Bernhard Kutzler. In the following, I analyze how and why food can become a matter of belief, rather than simply being the fulfillment of a biological need. Recently, I published an article about my experience with vegetarianism. It's about how my body had become a wreck after 36 years of a vegetarian and in the end almost vegan diet, how I then started eating meat again, and how my body healed as a result. See my article, I was a vegetarian for 36 years, then this happened. This article provoked many reactions. Most of them were from people who had a similar experience. But there were also attacks on me, which is completely nonsensical because a personal experience is inviolable. The own experience has the advantage of total certainty. Other Schopenhauer. I realized that vegetarianism is a religion for many people. Some are so fundamentalist that they even demand that everyone should eat a vegetarian or vegan diet. Conversely, I never met a meat eater who demands that everyone should eat meat. Why does someone eat what they eat? This question is part of a bigger question. Why does someone do and think what they do and think? The search for an answer is self-exploration. It's about finding out which actions and thoughts are natural and which come from programs. Why does someone eat a vegetarian or vegan diet? Here are 4 common answers. First, because I grew up that way. Second, because someone recommended it, such as a doctor, a nutritionist, a friend. Third, because I read about it in a book. Fourth, because of animal welfare. In these cases, vegetarianism has nothing to do with the body's natural needs, but is a matter of belief, and thus a religion. Anyone who gives reason 4 wants to be good, and thus puts the welfare of animals above their own welfare. Some argue with the abomination of animal factories. These should of course be rejected. Firstly, the animals are kept in unnatural conditions, which is cruel. Secondly, the products coming from these factories are not only of inferior quality, but often even harmful. Unnatural animal husbandry affects products such as milk, eggs, and meat. Many vegetarians refuse to accept logical arguments. When pointing out that there are also species-appropriate animal husbandry practices and stress-free slaughter methods, many resort to the argument that we should not kill animals for food after all. This is a religious reason that has no logical basis. In nature, animals are constantly killed for food. Or should we forbid lions to kill and eat gazelles? For thousands of years, meat has been an essential source of nutrition for humans. 40 years ago, vegetarian food was still the exception in restaurants. I was traveling a lot back then and had difficulty eating out. Today, vegetarianism is in, and vegetarian dishes can be found on almost every menu. This is a result of social programming. I see one reason for this in the so-called Disneyfication of animals. This term refers to the fact that Disney films portray animals as human-like. This programs people to attribute greater closeness to animals than is actually the case. I describe the difference between animals and us in my article. This is the difference between humans and animals. I was a vegetarian for 36 years. For me, it was reason number 3. Books and training courses made me believe that a vegetarian diet was right. Although I am a scientist, I fell into the usual trap. I only studied sources that supported my perspective. That is, I only looked for confirmation of my thesis. It would have been logical to devote the same meticulous attention also to the antithesis. Then I could have evaluated and chosen sensibly. I was firmly convinced that vegetarianism was the right diet for everyone. I had distilled a handful of convincing arguments and disseminated them in lectures, seminars, and a book. With my doctorate in mathematics, I gave my arguments a scientific flair. I wasn't just a religious vegetarian, I was a fundamentalist who tried to persuade people to go vegetarian. At home, I was a radical fundamentalist. I demanded that my wife and son also follow a vegetarian diet. My wife could have resisted, but she didn't. I was too convincing, and she was too loyal. She occasionally ate meat at her mother's house. My son grew up on a vegetarian diet. He had no choice. Today, I deeply regret all that. You can't argue with religious people. You can't change their minds even if you prove them wrong. M. F. Monsayer. After many years of self-exploration, I had become adept in questioning my actions and thoughts, exploring their roots and seeing the connections between body and mind. But my vegetarian fundamentalism was so strong that I never questioned my eating habits. My body deteriorated visibly over the years, but it didn't occur to me to link this to my diet. Because what must not be, cannot be. Christian Morgenstern. After 36 years in a vegetarian diet, my physical deterioration had progressed so much that I finally woke up and, for the first time, tentatively asked myself whether there was something wrong with my diet. As soon as I had asked this question, I, incidentally, stumbled across a video by Dr. Berg. The rest of the story is in my article. I was a vegetarian for 36 years, then this happened. Unfortunately, it took a physical crash to crack my vegetarian fundamentalism. I still remember my first ketogenic breakfast: 4 eggs, smoked duck breast, an avocado, lots of butter, and no bread. It tasted unbelievably good. I felt like I had never eaten anything so delicious before. Every cell in my body seemed grateful. An animal eats when it is hungry. It stops eating when it is no longer hungry, and it eats what it has an appetite for. You too have an instinct which manifests as hunger and appetite that tell you what is right for you, when and in what quantity. But most people can't hear the gentle voice of their instinct because their programs are so much louder. People eat what they have learned to eat. And all too often they eat in order to distract themselves or because they are out of balance and seek satisfaction. Sweets play a central role in this. In my book, Curiosity, the Mental Hunger of Humans, I describe why and how these programs develop as we grow up. Which diet is right for you? Finding an answer is simple, but not easy. The path to finding an answer begins with accepting that programs create over 99% of your actions and thoughts, including your food choices. To unleash your instinct, and thus your natural hunger and appetite, you must become a master of your programs. I describe a method in my article, How to Become What You Truly Are in 7 Steps, and in my book, Being Free, Get Out of the Box.